They say you can't have your cake and eat it too, but when it comes to investing, we'll take a little indulgence. Today we're discussing active versus passive investing. Is it smarter to ride the market or try to beat it? Maybe it's a little of both. Thank you for joining us for another Prime Capital Financial Market Breakdown. I'm your host, Tara McBride, Chief Marketing Officer at Prime Capital Financial. We are back to our OG format here virtually with Portfolio Manager Clayton Allison and Deputy Chief Investment Officer Will McGuff. We'll break down what makes a strategy active or passive, when each one shines, and how the growth of passive investing is reshaping the markets. Our investment team also put together a simple companion piece for you, giving you the basics on active and passive investing, because we believe financial literacy should be accessible for every investor. So download your copy by scanning the QR code on your screen or by clicking on the link in the show description. All right, let's roll. The first question is for you, Mr. Clayton. What makes a manager active or passive?
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having us back yet again. I know you wanted to do this in person, but when you live in Pittsburgh and Will's in Atlanta, there's not a lot we can do about that. But to answer your question, the answer is largely just in the names, right? You got passive and you got active. Like, think about it like if you're sitting at the beach and you're just listening to the waves roll in as you sit there, maybe reading a book or anything like that. You're just kind of enjoying the ocean passively versus me, who has the attention span of like an ant and wants to go splash around in the water and try to surf poorly and crash and everything. I'm actively enjoying the water. Now that's, quite the analog, but largely what passive investing is versus active is you're going to be largely, like you said, riding that wave and tracking the market when it comes to passive investing. It's going to be algorithmically based. There's not a lot of decision making going involved in that. It's meant to track an index. There's lower costs meant to be accompanying that, especially in those ETF kind of formats, versus active investing where you have a dedicated research team going in there doing fundamental research and selecting the actual individual investments that are going into the fund that you're using. Typically, you'll see that more in a mutual fund format more than anything. And really, when people say passive, you're really seeing these low-cost ETFs kind of surge into the ether like we've seen over the last couple of years. SPY being obviously probably the most famous one. That's the OG ETF, if you will. It's meant to just track the S&P 500. Right? And it costs pretty much nothing to hold, but you're pretty much along for the ride as to however the market does, whether that goes up or it goes down. You don't have as much flexibility there. Meanwhile, in an active management kind of front, you do have individual portfolio managers picking those securities, trying to pivot during tactical opportunities, maybe giving you the opportunity to outperform, which a passive investment is not going to allow you to do. Now you have to pay up for that kind of management, right? Because they have a dedicated team. They're doing detailed research. They're making more concentrated bets on that front. So you're paying a little bit more for that, but you're paying for the opportunity to potentially outperform. Now, history kind of shows that doesn't always work out that way, which is why the rise of passive investing has become so popular over these couple of years. You put your money into the market, you kind of go to sleep at night, and you wait to wake up 20 years later as compound interest is kind of taking hold. But largely, that's really what it means when passive versus active. You got somebody making the choices versus you're letting kind of a robot track an index for you.
So both days at the beach are fun, but natural athletes like you like to get into the waves. Unnatural athletes like me like to read the book on the sidelines. I get it. So over to you, Will. How and when do you think about using active or passive strategies? It feels like maybe there's some risk aversion or risk tolerance at play here. What do you think?
Right, and so I'll kind of play off the beach analogy here with my kids. I've got one of each, one that wants to chill on the beach and the other one that's in the waves. So it is a matter of personal preference, and for individual investors, this is where the financial advisor really comes into play. There's essentially two camps that are out there. Are the markets efficient or are the markets inefficient? It's very concentrated with the Mag 7, as we've talked about, so it's hard for active managers to add value there. If you think about bonds or international stocks where indices comprise 4,000 to 12,000 things, active managers can use their bottoms-up approaches to add value over time. So from a practitioner standpoint, it really gets back to that personal preference. Do you think the markets are efficient and you want to stay lower cost and just have no tracking error risk of how you're going to perform? That's where you would probably lean passive. If you're trying to add value over time, active managers may be worth the risk. But it ultimately gets back to individual investors' unique circumstances, risk tolerance, and time horizon, which is where the value of having a financial advisor and a wealth plan comes into play. And personally, I'm a big fan of mixing both of them. So there's certain types of strategies that favor being hybrid, where you're active and passive, and then there's certainly some instances where you have to be either or, depending upon what type of account you have. A 401k has different types of options available than a traditional retail account and such, but it's getting very nuanced as we dig into, again, how it affects you, which again is why financial advisor is so important.
Yeah, like having your own take on things, right? Everybody's situation is unique. And so everybody's day at the beach is going to be a little bit different, and a good outcome is going to look a little bit different. So, the big takeaway from what I'm hearing is how you invest matters just as much as what you invest in. And by talking to a professional, just like Will said, you can gain clarity for today and more confidence for tomorrow. So thanks to Clayton and Will for walking us through the nuances of active and passive strategies and helping us all become more thoughtful, informed investors, as always. As the audience, don't forget to download the piece our investment team has put together to supplement our conversation today. And until next time, remember to stay informed, stay invested, and we'll be here to help you navigate the twists and turns of the market.